Sonic Frontiers Update 3 is less than a week away, and for one, I just can't believe we're almost there. In less than a week, Sonic Frontiers will be a considerably different game than what it was at launch. So far, we have learned numerous things about Update 3, including the new playable characters, new bosses, and even a completely new form for Sonic. But something that hasn't really been touched on officially yet is the new and improved Ouranos Island, and that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. So for those who don't already know, Kishimoto confirmed on Twitter a while back that they're going to completely revamp Ouranos Island. He stated that he too felt Ouranos Island was just not very exciting and a pretty lackluster conclusion to the game at that. And yeah, Ouranos Island was a huge disappointment in Frontiers if you ask me. For one, it was just cut content from Kronos Island, for two, it barely had a story, and for three, it housed one of the worst final bosses in Sonic history. So revamping the entire island for the third update will actually make the game feel complete. But how far will they actually go with this? Well, I see two possibilities, and we're going to start with the most likely one. For Update 3, I think they're going to completely change the progression of Ouranos Island, including new story events, puzzles, and maybe even cyberspace stages. Ouranos Island in the game at launch really lacked an identity when it came to introducing new mechanics that weren't already in previous areas. Now, here's the thing with Update 3. We pretty much have confirmation that the new Ouranos Island will be played through by Tails, Knuckles, and Amy rather than Sonic, as Sonic is off doing his own thing to get his new cyber power. This could mean that the challenges and puzzles will be changed to cater to the new character's abilities. So there could be puzzles like one where Tails has to shoot targets with his new cyber gun. There could be one that would require Knuckles to climb a series of walls in a certain amount of time. There could even be a whack-a-mole type challenge for Amy like the one in Sonic Adventure. With all of the new character mechanics, the possibilities are really endless for what new puzzles and challenges they could add. And as for the new Guardians that will most likely be showing up around the map, I think it would be really cool to bring back the cut enemies from the base game. Now, these were basically just higher difficulty versions of Guardians that were in previous parts of the game. And while I can definitely see these being added to Sonic's new portion of the game, as far as the new characters go, I think it would be much cooler to add completely new Guardians that are tailored to their movesets. Honestly, Ouranos had some of the most sluggish and lazy Guardians in the entire game, so either A, they should change up their attacks for the new characters, or B, they should just create new ones altogether. Alright, so it's time to talk about the scenery of Ouranos Island. As of now, it shares the exact same grassy plains aesthetic as Kronos Island. The only difference is that the sky gets covered with gray clouds sometimes. That's really it. I think a complete retheme is really unlikely, because looking at the trailers, we can already tell that it has the same grassy aesthetic as it always did. However, I do have an idea that wouldn't necessarily change up the entire aesthetic, but would make the island stand out completely from Kronos. What if they put Ouranos in the sky, like Angel Island for example, and then they could add some clouds covering the island as a final touch? If you actually look in the CG trailer of the final horizon, you can maybe kinda see they might have already done this. This would make a lot of sense, because the other island names reflect their respective islands. Ouranos being in the sky would make perfect sense considering that Ouranos or Uranus is the god of the sky in Greek mythology. But there's another option that we could possibly consider here, and that is the inclusion of a completely new island. It would be a dream come true if they actually added the Cut Ancients world trip as the new final island of the game. Which, by the way, if you haven't already watched my video on that, then maybe check it out after this one. I would really appreciate that. Anyway, if they did decide to do something like the Ancients world ship, then they would have to change up the story significantly, even more so than they already are. They would have to make it so Amy, Knuckles, and Tails go to space somehow, which, I mean, it could work, but this is just a free update. That would take a considerable amount of time and resources. Or maybe they could use my sky idea from earlier and just make a completely new island out of it. I don't see why they would do that, but hey, maybe they just didn't like the general layout of Ouranos. If they do end up making a completely new island though, then I would love to see them re-implement the original version of Kronos Island that included Ouranos. They are definitely not going to do this though, especially considering that one of the reasons why they made this change in the first place was due to the fact that playtesters complained that Kronos was too big. And adding on to that, they would have to completely change up the progression in Kronos, so this is very unlikely. But here's another possibility if they decide to keep Ouranos on the ground. So you know how in the base game, Kronos is connected to Rhea, meaning that you can see Rhea from Kronos and vice versa. You just can't can't go over to the other island because of invisible walls. Well, what if in Update 3 they reconnect Ouranos, but they put up invisible walls so it's still a separate island? I don't really see a reason to do this, but it would have made sense in the base game because one moment the characters are on Rhea, and then the next they're just on Ouranos with no transition whatsoever. So it would have made much more sense if Ouranos was still connected, as they could have just jumped down from the tower, but I digress. Regardless, I'm just glad that we're getting a unique island to end the game. Again, I was very disappointed with Ouranos in the base game, so it's really nice to see that they're going the extra mile to fix a lot of its flaws for this update. Will they actually add any of this stuff in Update 3? Hopefully, but even if they don't, I just want them to make the new Ouranos island actually exciting. But that's going to end this one, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.